Craftsman Days are here at Lowe's with big savings on the tools you need. Save $100 on the Craftsman V20 6-tool power tool combo kit, now at $199. No matter what the project is, Craftsman's high-quality, high-performance products empower you to build on. Stop by your nearest Lowe's store and check out the full line of Craftsman tools today. Valid through 6/18 while supplies last. Selection varies by location.
This is Money Moves on VSiN, the sports betting network.
Welcome into the Friday edition of Money Moves. It's Jonathan Von Tobel here. Of course, Stormy Bonatoni, places unknown in faraway lands. We might hear from her a little bit later in a visual sense as she is out across the pond, close to the pond, but not across it. Marc Malusis is here with us, of course, out on the East Coast. Again, another day here, Marc. Looking forward to it. I hope you are doing well. We have a busy, busy program today, so let's not waste any time and let's get right into our rundown.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is The Rundown.
Now, I didn't want to rush you, and I do want to hear from you, Marc. The reason why I wanted to rush to get to this is we are 45 seconds into the hour, and officially we are open for business here at Circa. That's right, you can now enter the Circa Millions, the Circa Survivor. Signups are open. We finally have the guarantees, the full guarantee between now 3 contests. $22.5 million. Millions remains at $6 million. Survivor up to $15 million, and $1.5 million guaranteed for the newly unveiled Grandissimo, which is essentially another Survivor, but a very much high-stakes version of Survivor. How fired up are we now that we're in contest season?
Well, I mean, football's right around the corner. I mean, that's it. I mean, and who doesn't love NFL football? Who doesn't love college football? But I mean, the contests over at Circa, I mean, they're just legendary. It's been an amazing, and they continue to grow and get bigger and bigger each and every year. And now the contest is open, which is great. Unbelievable announcement yesterday in terms of the guarantees and, you know, $15 million and that you mentioned it in the worth of $20 million in total guarantees for everyone out there to kind of roll their luck during the NFL season. It's going to be fantastic.
We also have, of course, speaking of changes, big changes in college football as the college football playoff has announced that there will be changes for seeding for the 2025 season as everybody who is complaining and kvetching about, these teams and the top 4 seeds and the bye, well, you get your wish, and now we will get the seedings by rankings as opposed to what we had last year. Marc, were you one of those who did not like what we saw in the college football playoff this last year?
Well, John, I thought the matchups were bad. I mean, that's the issue is that, and you look at the NCAA tournament, it's not a matter of also getting the right teams in, draw a comparison. It's also about setting the right matchups early on in that tournament to create the excitement, right, of March Madness. The same thing rings true when you're looking at college football too. So you want to have the right matchups to where you're building it up to a crescendo to that national championship game. But there's not only changes this year, the other news is next year there's going to be even more changes where they're in all likelihood going to go from a 12-team format to a 16-team format. I like the changes in the announcement yesterday. I think it makes sense.
All right, to our number one topic of the day. You know, our producer, Brian Ortega, tells me in the back, I watched the playoff game last night in the NBA. I was like, you had to pick this one? He's like, well, I just watched the second half. I was like, you had to watch that second half? It was abysmal. But the Thunder get it done yet again, dispatched the Timberwolves 118-103. A very masterful night yet again for the OKC defense, and they are up now 2-0. Marc, this is our second show together, only our third hour together. Throughout the regular season, I have been calling this the Oklahoma City Invitational. You are all invited to compete, but we are here to crown one champion. It looked a little nerve-wracking there in that second round, but it has no more looked like the OKC Invitational that it has for the first 2 games of this Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, my question to you, John, is, listen, how's your head feeling? Because you hopped on the Wolves last night, as did I, plus the points, and you said, you know what, sometimes, I might be banging my head up against the wall in the second half. It might have been a little bit earlier than that, probably midway third quarter. I was feeling your pain as well because I hopped on Minnesota too, and that game was over. I mean, so yeah, it's OKC. I think they learned a lot in that Denver series. Let's be perfectly honest. And I understand in the end it was a limited Nugget team who had the coaching change and fired Michael Malone toward the tail end of the regular season with a couple games to go. But I think that was a big learning lesson, and I think sometimes you need to go through those lessons as a young team. and you've got dynamic players, and now you're seeing this. And let's be perfectly honest, through the first 2 games, I don't think it's going to drastically change in Minnesota. I really don't. What you've seen from Oklahoma City, they were the class of the NBA during the regular season, the class of the Western Conference, and they've shown it through the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah, and look, I think to your point, we'll have another example of this tonight in terms of banging your head against the wall and kind of taking a stand. But I think you saw the writing a little bit earlier. One of the things that I think that worried me early in that game, Marc, was, again, that was a team in Minnesota that was very reliant on hitting jump shots. They were very reliant on hitting three-point shots, and it was tight early because they were hitting those three-point shots early. But yet again, when you look at the Thunder's ability to just cut off your water at the rim, it was an incredible performance once more. Minnesota just goes 12 of 22 within 4 feet of the basket. Combined, how about this? Because, again, in basketball, it's very essential, right? Your rim rate, your three-point rate, how you hit in those areas of the floor, very vital to how you're going to perform as an offense. Combined at the rim and from beyond the arc, 38% for Minnesota in that game yesterday. That is an abysmal rating when you're talking about combined rim and three-point shooting. They just can't figure out this Thunder defense, and that has been the constant. Even through all of their struggles against the Denver Nuggets, that we talked about this with Stormy, this team was still a dominant defensive team every step of the way through their series with Denver, save for 1 game. And this has been fantastic to watch. If you're a fan of defensive basketball, if you're a fan of schemes, if you're a fan of seeing how a team is able to just wall off opponents' best strengths like they are here again against Minnesota, it's been incredible to watch, and I think that's the big thing here. Once again, a Thunder defense which has been showing it, and like you said, I mean, why would we expect anything different other than a venue change here at this point for the way that the Thunder have been playing on that end of the floor?
Right, and the old thing is, the old saying, Van Gundy, when Jeff Van Gundy was coaching, I think Hubie Brown used to talk about it more so than anything. You're going to get a 10 to 15% increase from your bench players at home as compared to on the road, right, feeding off the crowd. And you would expect Minnesota down 2-0, whatever they have in this series, they're going to fire it in game number 3. But, John, to play to your point about Oklahoma City, just like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, changed basketball with the Splash Brothers and shooting the ball from the outside, the evolution of the game, Oklahoma City, and for me, for a guy that grew up, watching the Knicks, watching the Pacers, watching the Chicago Bulls, watching those guys go out there and play defense, the Detroit Pistons, the Bad Boys, Oklahoma City has made defense sexy again in the NBA. They really have. It is remarkable when you watch them. Watch how committed they are, how they communicate defensively, how quick they are, and how these teams really struggle offensively to go out there and figure it out. And let's be honest, I mean, Minnesota's familiar with OKC. They saw them 3 times during the course of the regular season. It's now 2 games here into the postseason. Minnesota has the experience. Some of the names have changed. They were in the Western Conference Finals a year ago, yet here we are, right? Here we are. You and I talked about it yesterday. You expected a more aggressive Anthony Edwards. You got that. It still was not good enough last night for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and they're struggling offensively to figure out exactly what Oklahoma City defensively is doing, and that has been their trademark all season long. And this defensive unit is getting better and tighter and putting a vice grip on this Western Conference Finals to where you think to yourself, they're going to get a long rest before the NBA Finals gets going.
Would seem like that's the case. We'll talk about the Eastern Conference Finals coming up a little bit later. Hopefully we don't have like a 7-day break between the end of the conference finals and the NBA Finals. But a couple of last points on what this Thunder team has done defensively, because the other part of this too is, it's almost similar, Marc, to what Shai Gilgeous-Alexander went through in the previous round, which was the question. I think there's a promo running on VSiN of me kind of rattling off these points. The question for OKC in the last round was, would the role players show up? Would anybody else show up and help Shai? Jalen Williams had a very poor series. Nobody else was giving them offensive support. It was one of the reasons why they really scuffled. Well, now the shoe's on the other foot. Julius Randle doesn't show up in the fourth quarter, literally. He does not play in the fourth quarter for Minnesota. For the game, 6 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists on 2 of 11 shooting from the floor. Naz Reid, through 2 games, has 10 points. He is 3 of 8 from the floor yesterday. Through 2 games, he has 14 points. He is 3 for 8 yesterday, 0 for 5 from three-point range. He is 0-12 from beyond the arc so far through 2 games in Oklahoma City. Naz Reid has not shown up in any way. And Jaden McDaniels, while they've helped him on offense, Marc, his own defense, when he is the primary defender on Shai Gilgeous-Alexander so far in this series, Shai has scored 27 points on 8 of 14 shooting. He also has 8 assists. So even the other side of the coin, which is your role players helping on defense, McDaniels isn't doing it, and then Naz Reid and Julius Randle's complete no-shows, Reid through 2 games. that's going to lead to a very short series if this does not improve.
Yeah, John, and you look at Randall. Randall was exquisite in the previous series, right? And got a lot of flowers from everybody around the country. And, he was part of that Knicks trade where the Knicks acquired Karl Anthony Towns in the offseason. And he was very good previous series. He was great in the first half of game one. He has disappeared for the last 6 quarters, right? So that's not going to work for the Minnesota Timberwolves. It really isn't, because I'm not telling you Randall is as important as when you look at Anthony Edwards. He is not. But you need those secondary and tertiary guys, if you're the Minnesota Timberwolves, to be able to be point producers, because Anthony Edwards is not going to be able to do it all by himself. He wasn't aggressive enough in game one, only took 13 shots. I think he finished with, 27 shots last night, did Anthony Edwards. So you look at this scenario here for Minnesota is they're searching for answers, and the guys that they need to step up right now aren't.
And, of course, contributing, and we'll have more on this a little bit later, to what was a blasé night in the postseason was the Carolina Hurricanes getting their rear ends absolutely whipped yesterday by the Florida Panthers. 10-2 they have been now outscored in this series. I mean, we don't have to save too much because they didn't give us too much last night, but are we done here? We're going back to Florida down 2-0 here for the Hurricanes. This thing looks over.
I think it's over. I think it's over. It really is. You look at Carolina, look at that losing streak they're having in conference finals right now. They can't figure it out. And here's the difference when you look at game one and game two, right? We talked about it yesterday, John, in terms of the scoring chances. Carolina outshot in terms of high scoring chances, 10-5. You brought up that point yesterday. They outshot Florida in game number one, yet they lost game number one. You looked at that Florida team was stifling last night in terms of puck possession. How does that change now, leading 2-0, heading back down to South Beach?
Yep, going to be very interesting to see if they have at least something in them. Maybe a gentleman's sweep, but, man, it doesn't really seem like that's the case. All right, when we come back, we'll have plenty more. Of course, Eastern Conference Finals matchup set up. The New York Knicks, favorite at home, of course, but by this margin, just because they lost the previous game, we are now at the 6.5 in multiple spots in favor of the Knicks. And remember, zigzag, if you're playing at 35-18-1 ATS, does that hold up tonight? We'll answer that question and more here on Money Moves.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, Eastern Conference Finals later tonight in the association. We got what many could say is the greatest basketball game ever played, or at least one of the better ones in recent memory. So we get the rematch out at the Garden today. New York, a 6-point favorite now across the board. Since we started the show here, Mark, those hooks disappeared, was as high as 6.5, with the total down to 224.5. So I think there's a lot of different ways to look at this. But for me, it goes back to the theme of hitting your head against the wall here, right? The market is full zigzag when it comes to this number. Remember, it opened for game one, Knicks -3.5. Closed -4.5. They lose the game outright in overtime. And here we are, hours before the second game, and we were upwards of 6.5. A 3-point move from the opening number of game one. Why? Because they lost game one. Now, if you've played that, you're hitting at a 66% clip. The zigzag play, the straight-up loser, has been brilliant. But, Mark, I'm very adamant that power ratings and numbers should be relatively static. And to upgrade a team just because they lost the last game, to me, is something I wrestle with. But here's the thing. I'm going to get my face kicked in trying to go against it. So maybe it's time to just give up and let the river take me, right? Let me just go to the light because I'm done.
I would like them off to the light, right? I get. Listen, I think the zigzag theory works in theory at times, and I think in this situation it does. I think the love for the Knicks, or the fact that this line is now sitting at 6, as we're talking here on this Friday, wherever you might be across the United States, is the reason why is what people watch for 3.5 quarters, and what you saw in game one the improbable comeback was historic by the Indiana Pacers. And you're saying to yourself, well, is that repeatable, right? You look at it, not much defense played. Knicks got worn down. Knicks also made a tremendous amount of mistakes, right? When you break down a comeback, there also has to be part and parcel, a team part of it being a collapse, right? The missed free throws, not taking care of the basketball, the turnovers you can get on Thibodeau. I think Carlisle out-coached Thibodeau. I think the thing is you've seen the resolve of this Knicks team. Not only, more a case during the course of the playoffs against the Pistons. Obviously, you saw it in the Boston Celtics series. To think that this team now is all of a sudden, which was a slight favorite coming into this series, is now going to lose both games at home at Madison Square Garden. That's why I think you're seeing the line sitting right now at 6. I don't think there's going to be a blowout. I really don't. I think it's more about tempo, and I think that's what led the Knicks to be able to have the kind of lead that they had, where they led at one point in time by as many as 17 points in game number 1 before that epic collapse by the epic collapse and the comeback by the Indiana Pacers. So I look at it tonight where I think there are things that the Knicks do really well. Mitchell Robinson, Deuce McBride have been positive defensively. I think Jalen Brunson's going to get his points. Karl Anthony Towns, this is a favorable matchup for him against the Indiana Pacers. And I think the Knicks will show you their resolve once again tonight in game 2 at Madison Square Garden. And that's why I think you're getting the love of them minus the 6.
I always think it's interesting. It's always fun to look at things in I guess, different ways, right? So if you go back to game 1 of this series and you see, as you kind of alluded to, what Jalen Brunson did in that first game, and I were to just tell you, hey, Brunson scored 43 points on 15 to 25 shooting. He needs to be better. And what I mean by that is, I thought down the stretch he played like crap in terms of his decision-making. I was amazed.
I agree. And he was, Johnny was a -8 when he was on the court. I don't mean to interrupt you, but he was a -8.
No, you're right. And that's the whole point is, there is, like you mentioned, there has to be many different things that go right for one team in comebacks like that. That also includes a missed goaltend. And it goes back to my theory of just maybe I'm wrong, because you're right. Of the 3 quarters that we watched these games, the Knicks were the much better team. Karmic justice potentially for the Knicks, who went to Boston and grabbed 2 games in a similar fashion against the Celtics, right down by 20. And then coming out of those 2 games with a very negative net rating and still getting it done and moving on to this Eastern Conference Finals. The other interesting aspect of this game, not only just the way this market is moving on the number, but the way this market has moved on the total. Market was very in on, that game, it was 138, 135. We got to get this thing up there. So this thing as high as 227.5 in multiple spots. We're starting to see that buyback now. We're down to 224.5. And Mark, I wanted to point this out to our audience. I think because we talk about the Pacers, we talk about pace, we talk about how fast they want to play. That game only had 106 possessions. That includes overtime, according to Cleaning the Glass. That was an overtly fast game. You could argue it was actually played at the the Knicks' pace. The problem was the efficiency was off the charts for both teams, so that game goes way over the total. Market seems to be pushing back here quite a bit on the concept of moving this total up as high as it is. Now we have about a near 3-point move to the under, depending on where you looked at the peak of this number.
Yeah, which I think makes sense. I think when you're looking at game number 1, I think the start of the game when Indiana started ridiculously hot, 9 of 9 from the floor, right? And I think in their next 24 shots, they were 9 of 24, right? But they couldn't miss early on. The Knicks couldn't miss early on, and there was little to no defense being played. Start of that game was played at the Pacers' pace, and I've gone back and watched it. If you go through basically toward the tail end of the first quarter through the third quarter, it was more of a Knicks pace than anything else until the tail end when it gets frenetic, right? And that's what Indiana wants to do. That's strength in numbers. They're going 10 deep. Carlisle's going to go out there and play 10 deep. We know Knicks at best are probably 7 deep. That's it for Tom Thibodeau. So, I understand, and you mentioned and you bring it up, you'd think that there'd be clearly more possessions in game number 1. There wasn't. So what's it going to be tonight, right? Who wins the tempo battle? Is Indiana able to go out there and instill their will on this team and maximize possessions, get up and down the court, make it a frenetic pace? If they do, that's to the benefit of Indiana, right? And then if they're not able to do that and the Knicks are able to tempo this game And they have guys that can finish. OG can finish. Mikal Bridges can finish. We know Brunson in the open court can finish. We know Karl Anthony Towns can finish, certainly at the rim. And also he likes shooting, not on the bounce, but the catch and shoot threes from the outside. So there are strengths when you look at this Knicks team offensively. And this group was really good offensively during the course of the regular season. But they're not Indiana good at their tempo. And that's why Carlisle, after game number 1, talked about the fact of we're preparing ourselves for 13 days. He's preparing this team for 7 games. They think that they're going to wear the Knicks down as this series goes along. Well, they did in game 1 because the Knicks mentally and physically were fatigued at the end of it. They made shots. Now we'll see exactly what happens in game number 2. I kind of follow the under more so than anything else where the money's going right now.
Yeah, Knicks got to be smarter, and you can get smarter too. Smarter bets start here at VSiN, last all year long with the VSiN Pro subscription. Right now, you sign up, an annual subscription, get 14 months for just $199. You can use promo code PRO. That's 2 extra months for free, less than 50 cents a day. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber today. Get instant access, daily email with the best bets and articles, real-time betting splits from DraftKings and Circa, 24/7 video access, and free access, full access to VSiN.com analytics, betting trends, and more. Don't wait. Go to VSiN.com/subscribe. Promo code is PRO. Get in on this offer, 14 months, $199 at VSiN.com/subscribe. All right, speaking of being smarter, Oilers, in terms of the way they're playing hockey, got to be smarter. Can't give away so many power play opportunities if you're Edmonton this time around. 3 power play goals for Dallas as part of 5 goals overall in the third period. Leads them to a win the other night, same night we saw this Eastern Conference Final Series. Do the Oilers bounce back here tonight against the Stars in what was, I would argue, Mark, I think a pretty unsustainable performance? I mean, Dallas was down 3-1 before those power plays started really giving them some life.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think that's repeatable. Like, I have arguments with friends of mine. Like, when you see things that don't happen. Like after game 1, Knicks Celtics, I said, well, that's not repeatable. And then we saw it happen in game 2. I agree with you, John. I don't think what you saw in game 1 of Stars Oilers is repeatable. And I think we discussed it a little bit yesterday afternoon right here. I think if Edmonton is able to stay out of the penalty box, I think what we saw through 2 periods in game 1 is that the Oilers are the stronger hockey team. Now, the big curveball into it is the goaltending, right? Where I do think there is an edge when you're looking at the Dallas Stars as compared to the Oilers, because Skinner's kind of a little girl with the curl. You never know exactly what you're going to get net for Edmonton. But when you look at McDavid, Draisaitl, obviously 2 of the top players in the world, you look at the way Edmonton, the experience from a year ago, and what I witnessed and what we all witnessed through the first 2 periods, they got sloppy in the third period and it cost them. Obviously, they went back to work. They're getting ready for a game 2 tonight. I think if they stay out of the penalty box, Dallas is going to have power plays, but not to the level that we saw in that third period in game number 1. I think the Oilers are the stronger team. I think they find a way to even up this series.
Yeah, that's what sticks out. So when you go back and look at it, the even strength numbers, pretty much everything, not like to a dominant edge. It was a clear edge for Edmonton when they were playing 5-on-5 throughout that entire game. Metrics point to that. All of it points to the fact that this was a team. I mean, we talk about high danger chances. There was an edge there for Edmonton, nearly a full goal edge in terms of expected goals. So I would agree generally, if you're not going to get the same whistle and get these guys in the box, and I would assume too, Mark, like even if you get that, you're probably going to be able to. I know the Oilers right now are floating around like 66% penalty kill in the postseason. A lot of that has to do with the 3 they gave up in that third period. You're probably not going to be that bad on a penalty kill again in a game like this.
No. You don't expect the team, even if you go to the penalty box, to go 3 for 3. Right. I mean, on power play. That's the other thing. That's kind of.
They threw the stat up. My turn to interrupt you. Now, huh? No, I'm saying, but they threw the stat up because it rings. I was at a bar and somebody brought it up. They threw the stat up like this was the first time that a team had scored 3 power play goals in a single period since the hashtag not a major. Right? The Vegas Golden Knights collapse in the third period against the San Jose Sharks all those years ago. All right, we'll take a break. We come back. We'll have Will Hill on the other side. He's going to join us, get his thoughts on everything we've seen, both NBA, NHL, baseball, and more.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, a lot of moving pieces. Very exciting day. As of 30 minutes ago, it has opened up. Circa Survivor, Circa Millions. The entries are already flowing in. We've got quite a few, including one already, the first, of course, in the Circa Grandissimo, and the entrant for that will be with us, Ian Ritchie, coming up here in about 15 minutes to get his thoughts on being the first contestant in the Circa Grandissimo. Very much looking forward to that. If you're just joining us, wondering what exactly that is the new Survivor contest unveiled by Derek Stevens. $100,000 buy-in, $1.5 million guaranteed, and a lot of good stuff that comes with it, too. Maybe we can woo Ritchie enough that he invites us on some of the exclusive things that he gets as part of the package. But, we'll find out. All right, Marc Malusis is alongside, and in a similar geographic area, Will Hill, who joins us now via the Progressive guest line. Will, it is good to talk to you, buddy. First and foremost, I've been trying to convince Stormy. She's had some cold feet about this. Me and you, 50K split, Grandissimo, what do you think?
We got the big money guy with us now, Malusis. Malusis could probably fund the whole thing. He wouldn't even notice the 100 grand is missing. 100 stacks to him is nothing. I mean, he's winning Kentucky Derby bets. He's got this long, illustrious career, FAN, and all these different places, PIX. So I think we hit up our buddy Marc, and we go from there.
Yeah, you know what happened to all the money? My kids play youth hockey. That's all the money. Once the kids get into youth hockey, but I appreciate it, Will. Yeah, I mean, it's the contests at Circa are fantastic every single year. They just are, and I love the new one as well.
All right, so let's get into the action tonight before we get to some football, which I know you do have some thoughts. It's funny, we were talking about the NFC East yesterday, so I'd love to get your thoughts on one of the teams there. Tonight, New York Knicks, now up to 6. It was actually as high as 6.5. We've seen the total drop down to about 224.5 now, Will. Any thoughts on a rematch of one of the wildest postseason games we've seen in a very long time?
I still cannot believe that ending. I watched it probably 5-6 times. I still don't know how that ball from Halliburton went all the way up and came down and went through the net. And just the range of emotions from thinking that shot was no good and the Knicks had won to seeing the shot go in and say, oh my goodness, the Pacers just won the game on a 3, and then realizing it was none of the two. It's a tie because the foot was on the line. And the Knicks up 4 in overtime, about to be up 6, couldn't close it. Just a wild game, as good as any basketball game I've ever seen. It was really that good. I'd be a little concerned if I'm the Knicks. I made this point last night on VSiN Primetime with Matt Humans. Game 1 of the World Series, Freddie Freeman hits a walk-off grand slam, and the Yankees had a devastating loss that they never recovered from. I'd worry a little bit about that if I'm the Knicks, that they just don't get off the mat, that it was that bad of a loss. I don't think that ultimately happens. I think they're tough and they're resilient. Thibodeau's a hard-nosed coach. Brunson's a resilient player, all those things. So I do think the Knicks win tonight. I get the zigzag theory that, look, they're home, they're desperate. Brunson will probably get the best of the whistle again tonight, and I thought he was pretty egregious the other night, just colliding into people, looking for calls. I think the Knicks win. I just can't get to the 6.5 here with two teams that are basically dead even in my mind. I know some people think even Indy's a little bit better. Call them even teams. The situation, the spot, home court, it just doesn't get me to 6.5. So, at the current number, I mentioned last night when it was 5.5, I'd probably lean towards the Knicks. At 6.5, I'd probably just take the points because, again, I just don't know what justifies a 6.5 point spread. And I think we've seen this a lot of times with these spots baked into the postseason here. Like Indy, Cleveland was a 3-1 series, and it was in Cleveland for Game 5. And Indy was getting 8. It's like we've watched these teams for 4 games now. 8 points doesn't separate them. There's a lot of examples like that. I don't think 6.5 points separates these teams. So it'd be Pacers or nothing for me. And I think part of it too, I played over 5.5 games in the series, and I have Knicks in 7 plus 400. So part of it is a little bit of a hedge where I kind of need the Knicks to win this game here to have those tickets, be in a good position where I want them to be. So I might just take the 6.5 here as a bit of a hedge to make sure we get 1-1 here, and I'm not dead on my under 5.5, my over 5.5 here, which I laid some juice on.
Sure.
Well, one thing, if you're looking at a historical perspective, and I know teams change, and the Knicks have not won an NBA title since 1973. Knicks as a franchise have never won a playoff series when they've lost Game 1 at home, historically speaking. So that doesn't set a proper tone here moving forward. But talking about Game 2 tonight, well, how about the 224.5, where the number's sitting right now in terms of the total of the game? Who wins pace of play? Do you like the over or do you like the under?
Boy, it'd be hard to hit submit on that under after watching the game the other night. And I know a lot of it was ridiculous shot making, and that's hard to sustain. But the pace was good. We'll see if the Knicks try to slow it down with their lack of depth compared to Indiana. But I would only look towards the over here. I just thought that was such an overfest the other night. I know that The under took some money, especially in live betting. I know some people that were on. It's just that's not a ticket I want any part of the under. So it'd be over or nothing for me.
All right, Western Conference Finals. I will fully admit here, I was listening to VSiN Primetime the other day, and our colleague Scott Seidenberg had Zach Cohen on, and he asked Zach, this is after game one, do you think maybe the Timberwolves can win a game here in this series? And in my head, I'll fully admit, I was like, Scott, what are we doing? It's one game. Maybe the Timberwolves can win one. Will, can the Timberwolves win one game in this series? He might be right. That was insane again watching that yesterday.
They can maybe win one, but I don't know that it's any more than one. This does feel like OKC at minimum probably goes to Minnesota, gets a split, and closes it in 5. I picked OKC in 6, and I thought that was being optimistic for Minnesota. I was surprised how many people thought the series spread was disrespectful to Minnesota and that the line was too high. I know they struggle with Denver, but maybe Denver made OKC sharpen their knives a little bit and clean some things up and face some adversity. And we saw, I forget who made this point I was listening to, but maybe we saw OKC go through puberty before our very eyes in that Denver series, and now they're all grown up and they're ready to be a champion. I think that's the case. I made the point. I said on a numbers game, I think Wednesday with Gil, I said I wouldn't be shocked if that Game 6 loss to Denver for OKC was their last loss of the postseason. It just feels like they're a cut above everybody else. Now, we've seen these series flip venues and everything looks different. Everything changes. Maybe, who knows, Minnesota rises up. They'll shoot the 3 better at home. The role players play better at home, all of that stuff. And we're talking about like a 2-2 series in a couple of days. I guess that's possible, but I would look towards OKC in game number 3. The line has come down. I was shocked that opened at 4. We're down to like 2.5 in most places, I think now. Here's what troubles me for Minnesota. OKC, 9 of 33 from 3, I believe, in game 2. 123 offensive rating, 105 half-court offensive rating, and that's without shooting the 3 well. And Minnesota was pretty good at taking care of the ball. I just think there's so many holes to plug if you're Minnesota. The turnovers turn into points. OKC is so good on defense. They're so good in transition. They haven't shot the 3 well yet either. Man, again, maybe Minnesota gets a game here, but I wouldn't be shocked if OKC sweeps and really sweeps their way through. I think OKC is holding up the trophy one way or another in a couple weeks, which is not a hot take. They're minus $3 in some places here to win the championship, but I would look at the OKC money line here in game 3 if I had to play it.
Well, let's stay out west, but move over to hockey. I want to get your thoughts on Game 2, Stars and Oilers back down in Dallas after Dallas had the unbelievable third period the other night. You look at, do you expect Edmonton to bounce back later on this evening, even up the series at a game apiece?
Well, I probably would. And that game Wednesday night flew under the radar because everyone was watching the Knicks blow the game to the Pacers, and that was what was it? 4 unanswered goals, 5 unanswered goals for Dallas. Just a wild comeback. Yeah, I would look towards Dallas in game 2, if anything. I didn't play it. I did add a hockey bet, though. I bet Carter Verhaeghe I don't want to give out a stale number, but I bet Carter Verhaeghe to win the Conn Smythe just with the idea. And I was listening to, I think it was one of the handicappers on a numbers game making the point. If Florida wins the title, if Florida wins the cup, the Conn Smythe is pretty wide open. So I did take a shot at Verhaeghe here to win the Conn Smythe.
All right, I like it. Baseball, it is your true love outside of, I would assume it's your family, but I don't really know you that well. What do we got today in baseball?
I played Pirates-Brewers first 3 under.
Yeah.
It's 1.5, but it's Skeens versus Peralta. Peralta's been outstanding. Skeens, strikeouts are down a little from last year from the video games numbers he had as a rookie, but he's still been really, really good. And I like playing these first 3 unders. I don't want to go through the 4th and the 5th and, okay, I'll sacrifice the extra run. I don't want to see the lineup a second time. I just want to get in, get out that first time through the lineup with 2 good pitchers. So often you see it. It's 1-0, 0-0. So under 1.5 is plus money. I do like that first 3 under. And I played a couple things in this first Boston-Baltimore game. It's baseball, it's Memorial Day weekend. Give us some day games. We have 1 day game, and it's only because there was a rain out yesterday. It drives me nuts when we don't get these day games. But over 9.5, Brian Bayo going against Cade Povich. Bayo is the regression monster of all regression monsters. He has got negative regression coming. Expected ERA, expected this. Everything expected is much worse than his surface stats. He's walking a million guys, giving up hard contact. I think 12 walks his last 13 innings. And then Povich has not been great here for the Orioles. Red Sox can hit lefties. Orioles hit righties. It's a hitter ballpark. So I played over. It's ticked up now. So over 9.5 is the current number. And I don't mind taking a shot. Minus 115, yes, run first inning. You see both top of the lineup, two pitchers that are struggling. So yes, run first inning and over 9.5 should be good plays based on these pitchers.
All right, well, it's good to talk to you as always, buddy. Good luck this weekend, and we will chat soon.
All right, good to see you guys. Thanks for having me.
At Not The Will Hill up on Twitter. All right, we'll take our break here. When we come back, contest season has arrived. You can now come down to Circa and enter the Millions, the Survivor, and the Grandissimo. The answer to the trivia question, who was the first entrant in the Circa Grandissimo? Well, he's going to join us next here on VSiN.
If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
So if today feels a little different, there is a reason why. Contest season is now here. Circa, of course, about 45 minutes ago, opened up entrance to the Circa Survivor, Circa Millions, and now their new contest, Circa Grandissimo, which is a Survivor with a small tweak, $100,000 entry, higher stakes, and, of course, $1.5 million guaranteed. So Marc Malusis is still alongside out on the East Coast, but the answer to the trivia question, who was the first entrant into the Circa Grandissimo? Well, we have the answer to that. Ian Ritchie, who joins us now in studio, flies in from the Pacific Northwest, correct, to get into this thing. You are that number one that is sitting right there. I asked you when you walked in, how you feeling? How you feeling?
I feel amazing. I feel great.
Yeah.
I had a little anxiety, of course, but when you walk up to the counter with $100,000 in chips to lay it and you give it off, man, you feel pretty good about it.
That's a heartbeat that I will not, I don't think, achieve anytime soon there, Marc.
No, I'm not going to be achieving that either, but I'm a little jealous. I really am. Now, when you enter this, Ian, are you a little nervous when you're putting down those chips and everything in the middle of the table and entering this contest?
Yeah, I mean, I get anxiety about a $100 bet, let alone a $100,000 Survivor team. And, you know, I don't hold myself out as the greatest Survivor player, but I feel like I'm good enough to take on 15 or 20, maybe 25 guys and do pretty well. So I did have anxiety, and I was very nervous.
So did you just, what did you enter in total? Did you enter just the Grandissimo, or were you in Survivor? Did you enter Survivor as well? What did you all come in here for today?
Right, so first of all, I had to Google Grandissimo to see what that meant. But today we just entered that one, and then I will enter, and we will max out on the Survivor with 10 teams from our community.
What do you expect in terms of entries for this thing, the Grandissimo? Because as we were talking about, too, for people who might not know, the Survivor rule, you can buy back in, same thing with Grandissimo, right? So if you get eliminated that Thursday, Friday, you do have a chance to get your 2 entries back.
Which is insane.
Yeah.
Totally insane. But yes, you can buy back in. I think there'll be 30, 40 teams by the end. You know, maybe potentially up to 50. I think there's a lot of people that would enjoy this type of contest with 100% payout. And, you know, Circa always does it right. I mean, I'm honored to be the first person. I mean, it's great to fly down and to do it and about me and everything, but I'm actually really honored to be the first person. Circa's really created some amazing, you know, memories and things for my friends, my family, our community, hosting fantasy football drafts here. It's just been amazing. So for me to be able to support them and be the first person to sign up for their new contest was an honor.
Now, you know,
as funny as that might sound.
Yeah, no, it's great. Well, the contests at Circa are legendary. They just are. Of all the experiences, right, that you get with entering the Grandissimo contest, which experience are you most excited about?
Ooh, Barry's. I'm a big fan of Barry, and I'm a big fan of Barry's restaurant. Yeah. So I think the Barry's dinner is going to be amazing. And, you know, it's going to be a fight between myself and my partners at Icon Racing for who gets those things, the perks. But, like I love Barry and I love his food, and you can't find a better steakhouse than Barry's Downtown Prime, so I'm excited about that.
For our radio audience who's listening, maybe isn't up to this, we can leave this up to Ortega. So when you enter the Grandissimo, when you enter the other contests, you get a hat. I have a big head. You're a baseball guy, so you'll get this reference. I'm a size 8 fitted, right? So like, the snapback ain't working. Yeah, the snapback ain't working for your boy. When I enter Grandissimo, you get a little bit more than that. You get the round trip flight, Jet Suite X. 3-night stay at the Founders Suite here at Circa. Personalized dining experience at Barry's with Chef Barry's you're referencing here. Stadium swim experience. Premium whiskey tasting at Legacy Club. I think I would take that one. Curated dining experience at Andiamo's as well. Exclusive inaugural Class G4 jacket. Limo service to and from the airport, and then a year-long VSiN subscription as well. And again, with us here, Ian Ritchie, who is part of a group who did enter the Circa Grandissimo, the first entrant in the contest. Did you talk to Derek? Do you, as part of your group, do you all get the G4 jacket, or is there only one and you taking it?
That's a great question. I should push for more. Right now, there's probably one, and I'll let some of my partners have that. But look, I think the perks they put together are great for it. There's a lot of cool things. The stadium swim experience. If people haven't been to stadium swim before, you're really missing out. It's really hard to have something unique and rare in Las Vegas that other people don't do and don't copy very quickly. And stadium swim is an amazing experience as well. So to have that as one of the perks, people will love that experience.
So if I could ask real quick, Marc, what I'm curious about your thoughts. Derek brought this up yesterday. One of the key things for Survivor this year, I don't know, it's May, so you got to talk strategy a little early, but is that 3 of the teams that play on that Thanksgiving Black Friday will also play on Christmas. But what's interesting is in a contest like the Grandissimo, where it's such a smaller sample size of entrants, have you thought about that at all? Have you given any thought, talked to your guys about, hey, look, like, the way we're going to play this differently, like those might be important in a regular Survivor when you have 10 entries, but you might want to fire those bullets pretty early if you're trying to stay alive in a smaller sample size.
Yeah, I think you're right on. Yeah. I mean, to be honest, we are not going to look past week 10.
Sure.
And we're just going to try and take the best team available every single week that we believe. And look, if there's one team that's going to be ridiculous and the entire field's going to have, we might fade them, but the reality is you got to survive 6, 8, 10 weeks to win a smaller thing like this, and so you just take the best team. I think each week you can. Week 1's going to be tough because there's a couple games that stick out, and there's going to be a lot of the field probably on 2 of the games. I think
a vast majority of the spreads for week 1 are floating around 3 to 1.5 points. Like, there's not that many lock them up, and even as we remember last year, they'll lock them up, they throw away the key, you're fine. Bengals screwed everybody over. So yeah, right. Nothing is given, Marc, when you're talking about Survivor.
No. Ian, I'm a big believer in positivity, right? So first man in, hopefully you're the last man standing, right? You and your group, right? So wish you all the best. What do you do? What are you going to do with the money? Because I understand you're big into horse racing, have gotten into horse racing because of Jason Worth. What are you going to do if you and your group end up winning this?
We're buying horses. So we have Icon and operate Icon Racing. And like you said, Jason is become an enormous racing fan since his baseball career was over, and he feels like he wants to bring a lot more people into horse racing to enjoy these moments that he has with friends and family as opposed to teammates. And so we started Icon Racing with the idea of bringing in more fun to horse racing. And so we bought a bunch of horses, and we decided to enter this, and if we can win $1.5 million or $2 million, we're buying more horses for Icon Racing. It's going to be a lot of fun.
There you go.
Look, we just are all about having a great time with the horses and going to tracks and kind of having a party. And Jason is always the head of the party. So wherever you find Jason, that's where the party is.
And you guys had a horse in the Kentucky Derby field, correct?
Yeah, a couple of the partners had Flying Mohawk going. Normally, I'm not a big racing guy, although I love to be part of it. But it was a turf horse and ran in the dirt and the mud and got kicked in his face and kind of faded back. And then Jason had Door Knock last year, which really kind of gave him this feeling of, I love horse racing and I want to share it with more people. And that was kind of the impetus behind Icon Racing.
I like it. All right, so really quickly, you mentioned this a couple of times, your background, not only in terms of what you do personally, but what you do out here at Circa with some regularity. I think it goes back about 3 years or so with the fantasy football. Tell people what you guys do out here regularly.
Yeah, so we run the Fantasy Football World Championships and the Las Vegas Fantasy Championships, and those are online contests and live at Circa. We try and bring as many people out here to Circa to experience this amazing place as we can, especially opening weekend. There's nowhere better than Stadium Swim and the sports book here, and we feel like if we get our community to come here, this is the only place they'll want to stay. So we run drafts all throughout August and the first couple weeks of September here, as many as we can, and like I said, drive as many many people through Circa as we can and give them what we feel like is a real Las Vegas experience. And that's the key. People have fun, they come back. You give them a Vegas experience, they're always going to come back. And look, and having Survivor here, when our fantasy players are here, they love it. They love the sports book. They love the stadium swim. It's an experience they don't get anywhere else.
Ian, last one from me would be, who gets final say of the selection? You mentioned about the group, right? If you're going week in, week out, that's always when you have a group that enters into a contest. Who gets final say?
I was waiting for that question. That's Jason. He's the alpha. And, you know, when we started Icon, he has a saying, winners win. And so he is going to be the guy that's going to end up calling the shots if there's ties. And it's all on his back. But, you know, like I said, winners win, and we're gonna ride this thing to the victory table. We'll be the last one standing.
So in totality, is there an odd amount of you, even amount of you, in terms of like guys who will have?
There's 4 of us.
So it's 4. That includes Jason?
That includes Jason. There's myself, Jason Worth, Jeff Barry, who, like I said, he's a special assistant to GM to the Giants, and then Ken Kuykendall, who's Price Waterhouse Cooper's bean counter.
Sure. Okay. So the 3 of you will confab. You'll put it together, and then if there is a plurality of all 3 of you are in, then we'll just go with it, right?
That's right.
And then if there's conflict, then Jason's in.
Jason's the guy making the call. Yeah.
Okay. That's a lot of pressure. I don't think I would want this at all in any way, shape, or form.
He loves it. So that's
our last minute here, really quick. Just again. Very much looking forward to it. Good luck to you this week. And let people know, too, you're about to head back out. You got, baseball to get to?
Yeah. I coach high school baseball in Seattle, so right after practice was over yesterday, I hopped on a plane, came down, got my sign-ups in. I have to fly back tonight. I'm coaching a couple state high school games for our high school tomorrow for Bainbridge Island, Roll Sparty. We're the number 2 seed in state, and it's our first chance to really bring home a state title for the boys. So I'm flying back tonight. We got 2 games I got to coach tomorrow.
All right, man. Well, good luck in those 2. I'm looking forward to it. Actually, our show is going to be heading out to Omaha next month for the College World Series.
Oh, it's the best.
And everybody. So I'm very excited. Never been, obviously. So
it's the best.
Very much looking forward to it. Hopefully, I'll find some size 8 fitteds out there that I can rock and actually get on top of my head. All right, again, if you ever ask the trivia question, who was the first entrant in the Circa Grandissimo, Ian Ritchie here with us. Good luck, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
All right, when we come back, second hour of Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.